Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
I swear I'm telling the truth. Do I look like a sex murderer to you? Can you imagine me creeping around, strangling all those women with ties? That's ridiculous. For a start, I only own 2.
This is episode 153, recorded November 22nd, 2021.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Doc Rotten, and this podcast is about horror movies released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will tackle another classic, or not so classic, film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. Let me introduce the crew, starting off with the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very good. Get ready for Thanksgiving.
Yes, Thanksgiving. There's a lot that we'll leave that there sitting on the floor. All right, also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and all around nice guy. How you doing, Bill?
Good evening.
Cool.
That's a bad Hitchcock right there. Oh well.
I'll just go throw you in the
Nice
river so
try.
you can float downstream. All right, also joining us is not me, but Chad Hunt. Tater does, a comic artist and co-host of every Decades of Horror that we do. How you doing, sir?
I am marvelous.
Marvelous.
I've never seen this movie before, and I'm
Cool.
glad we're going to talk about
You
it.
ready to talk about it? All right, the movie.
Hi.
If you weren't aware, is Frenzy from 1972, and this is Alfred Hitchcock's next to last film, I believe, right?
Mhm.
Right?
Yes.
Penultimate, they call it.
The penultimate.
Yeah.
And Family Plot would be the next one, right? All right, Alfred Hitchcock, a name that I think most horror fans do know. I think movie fans, even people that aren't movie fans, know who Alfred Hitchcock is, right? He's
Yeah.
Well,
part
they
of
know his
pop culture.
silhouette.
Right. and that voice, right?
Yeah.
But this is his 1972 film. It's one I don't think many people actually talk about when they talk about Alfred Hitchcock. You know,
Mhm.
it gets overlooked,
Yeah.
and I think all of his 70s work does, for that matter. But we are excited to talk about it, and what we're going to do is dive into it with when we first saw the film, and then we're going to get into a real nice discussion. Then we'll wrap things up with some feedback. Is that right, Jeff, sir?
Yes, we have feedback galore.
All right.
Sounds like a
gore.
Bond girl.
A cornucopia.
Yeah.
Oh, that's her
Feedback
twin
galore.
sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's her twin sister,
Yeah.
Cornucopia. All right, what are we talking about? Frenzy, 1972, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, written by Anthony Shaffer, based on Arthur Le Bern's book Goodbye Piccadilly, Farewell Leicester Square. Cast includes, but not limited to, John Finch, Barry Foster, Anna Massey, Barbara Leigh-Hunt, Alec McCowan, Vivian Merchant, Billy Whitelaw, there's a name that horror fans are familiar with, Bernard Cribbins, and Michael Bates. It was released May 25th, 1972 in London, and June 21st, 1972 in the US. The budget was $2 million, and the box office is $21 million. And then there's some discrepancy, but we'll go with 21 million. The synopsis: London is terrorized by a vicious sex killer known as the Necktie Murderer. Following the brutal slaying of his ex-wife, down on his luck, Richard Blaney is suspected by the police of being the killer. He goes on the run, determined to prove his innocence. That's actually a really good synopsis. And of course, Alfred Hitchcock, famously would show up in his own movies, and there's the shot of him in the crowd, which
There he is.
is
Pretty early on.
Yeah, and is actually put a smile on my face when it happened.
Yeah.
I
Well, he supposedly he started doing it earlier and earlier because otherwise people were wasting so much time looking for him that they were not paying attention to the story. So
I think he was floating on his back in the trailer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
back in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the
Yep.
suit.
I think most people
What,
remember
Jen?
that more than they do to the movie. All right,
Right.
let's talk about when we first saw Frenzy and what was our first impression. And Jeff, you're going first because this was your pick, sir.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching the old Alfred Hitchcock Presents TV show for the last few weeks and absolutely loving it. And his little intros and outros, which sometimes have absolutely nothing to do with the show,
No,
are awesome. But that's when I started thinking, why haven't we done Frenzy? And it took some digging. It's right this minute is on Peacock, I think. Is that where you guys watch
Yeah,
it? Anyway,
I believe that's where I saw it.
I saw this in the theater first
Wow.
run, and I loved it. I got to be a big Hitchcock fan, and then when I was in, God, I don't remember what year I was in, but they had like one of those, they used to do festivals at the local theaters where they would show stuff during the week. They did Rope, Vertigo, Rear Window, and one other one that hadn't been in circulation for a while. So
nice.
I had gone to those, and so I was really excited when this came out, although I was a little worried that we were going to get, Topaz or Torn Curtain again, which are fine films, I guess, but not what I'm looking for in an Alfred Hitchcock movie. And to me, this took it back. Now, there are some issues that, he maybe wasn't there the entire time because his wife had a stroke and he was having to care for her. But, and so that's certainly going to take up some of your, occupy some of your consciousness. But I think you can really see his stuff in here. But the other thing is he took a huge jump from 1960, Psycho, 63, The Birds. And then I think Marnie was after that, which was sort of a different movie, but huge jump in sexuality and what you could show. In 1960, you could barely show the toilet flushing. He was like so forward and progressive by showing a toilet flushing on scene. But he went all out on this one, at least in terms of nudity. Yeah. I also like that there's we know who did it, but it's still a good whodunit. It's almost a police procedural in the background, I think, and some great humor from the police inspector and his wife. I thought was pretty hilarious. So, and we have some other horror. Anna Massey has got some horror cred too, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Nice,
so,
nice.
Yeah.
All right, Bill Mulligan, sir. When did you first see Frenzy, and what was your first impression?
I feel like I saw this at maybe a drive-in as a double feature with his last movie, Family Plot. That just, I don't know that for certain, but I feel like I saw this. It was either there or a few years later when I went to college and I would go to the repertoire theater that would show double features and stuff. And I finally, first time I saw it was on the big screen. And I liked it quite a bit. By that point, I was a big Hitchcock fan. He was one of those, directors when you first realize that there are directors that make, their movies have a certain look to them. Hitchcock, Bava, these various people that really put that stamp on it. It was really a long time before I saw the classics, the ones that really made him famous. I was into the two horror movies he made, Psycho and The Birds. So I was a little disappointed actually to find out that and Frenzy were really the closest thing to traditional kind of horror that you'd find, and the others were more suspense. Great movies though, way ahead of their time. And I was impressed with this. It's an odd little film because it's simultaneously kind of old-fashioned and very modern at the same time, which is a little weird in that, there's his style of filmmaking where not necessarily lots and lots of camera movement, although there's some great camera movement in here, great run, that great shot, but more where the editing tells the story instead of the camera swooping around. And then the nudity it's a little out of place. It's a little shocking, but then it's supposed to be a shocking movie, so why not? And then the humor is, again, kind of a more something I'd associate with a 40s or 50s film, but it works. I really liked it. It's a little mean-spirited. It's definitely, if you want to argue that it's pretty misogynistic, I'm not going to argue with you. The way people joke about rape and stuff is awful, but probably not that far from the way things really were back then. You watch movies of that era and the things people say about rape, and you're like, dang. But still, this is a cool movie, and definitely the last great movie he made. He of course he only had one more, and Family Plot Family Plot just felt to me like a TV movie with a few Hitchcock touches, but just a little, I don't know, just not enough there, especially after this one. I think when I saw this and then saw Family Plot, I was like, okay, this seems like a step back to a much milder thing. Maybe he got too many complaints about the meanness of Frenzy. But there's a few sequences in here that I think are absolutely top-notch Hitchcock. Just the two of them walking up the stairs and then the door closes and we pull back. I mean, that's subtle. There's no blood, there's no gore, and yet we all know that this character that we liked, we're not going to be seeing her alive again.
And all the way back out into the street where you're surrounded by everyday life, knowing that something extremely tragic and disturbing is taking place right upstairs on the other side of that window. So
Eek. Is that it, sir? All right.
Yeah, sure. I'm yapped enough.
Sure. All right, Chad, sir. When did you first see Frenzy, and what was your impression of
it? Wow. I first saw it last week. I still had like the last 20 minutes or so left to watch. And so finished it up, and I was really that was the first time I've seen it, and heard about it, and I knew I think the poster for High Anxiety was sort of lampooned from this particular poster for this movie with the circular wavy lines and stuff there. But yeah, it's pure unadulterated Hitchcock, I think. I mean, it's as I was watching it, things were happening, and I'm like, what's going on here? But then you realize it's Hitchcock, and everything means something later. Everything is set up to mean something later, which I really, really love that about Hitchcock's films. Is there's nothing's really wasted, and to pay attention to the smaller details means something big later on. The comedy in here, I found myself chuckling at some of it, especially in the back of the potato truck when she's the foot smacks him in the face and he's like wrestling around trying. I mean, it's morbid, but it's still funny. It's black humor. And that kind of stuff was funny. He when he was after his little pen and all that, and the scene with the police detective and his wife, I loved those scenes.
Yeah.
Loved them. She was just amazing. I just loved to watch her, and I love when that kind of thing happens where the tired detective comes home and his wife goes, "Yeah, but did you do this? Did you ask this person?" And she solves the case. Yeah. There's other movies like that. But,
they should have made a series of those two. I would watch a TV series with just those two right there,
or have them be recurring characters or something else he's done. But it was good. It was a good mystery, and it was like Jeff said, even though you knew who did it, the fun part was seeing how it all connected and how it all came together, even though you knew who the killer was, and figuring out how to get from how he gets to A to B, and so yeah, it's I really, really like it. Really like this movie. I can't believe this is his penultimate movie, as I said, because this movie made you feel like he still had a lot left.
Yeah,
to give, and but yeah, I really liked it. I really liked it a lot.
All right, then now it's my turn. So I the first time I've seen this movie was last week. I am a Hitchcock fan, but I've only seen up through Marnie, so I haven't seen. And I saw Family Plot way back in the day, but I'd have to watch it again to even say I'd seen it. I just remember that Bruce Dern's in it, and that's about it. Maybe Karen Black, is that right? And I'm not entirely certain of all that. It could have been another movie I confused. But anyway, I have seen up through Marnie, and of course, a huge fan of what just the idea of Alfred Hitchcock. However, this film I did not like. I am not a
Really?
fan of this movie. I was really turned off by the masochism of it that you were talking about, how flippant they were toward the subject. And I did not find the humor you guys see. I understand where you're seeing it, but I was totally annoyed by those dinner scenes, and the foot in the face thing had my eyes rolling. And for me, this is not a signal that he still has something into him. It was a signal that, okay, yeah, he's losing his touch. But there are moments of great style and stuff, like you were saying, that one pull out shot. I think that is where he backs out of the thing, because that was really stunning. But yeah, I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the cast. I didn't like the dialogue. I really didn't like this movie. Yeah, I'm just going to stop there. I don't want to watch this again.
We lost Tater. You've driven Tater dust away from us.
Tater, yeah.
I think something came up.
Yeah. I mean, I get this can be a divisive movie. I guess a lot of it, you could probably tell if people are going to like this movie or not by how they react to the ending. I
hate the ending.
See, I love the ending. I think it's one of my favorite endings of any film, because it subverts your expectations so much, and that this poor sap, everything he does ends up making him look more and more guilty. Every decision he makes is the wrong one, and just puts him further and further in the line of fire to be found guilty. And then here at the very end, he thinks he's got his chance, and once again, it turns out he's there. There's a dead body, and the police are there, and he just has that look on his face like, just put me in the electric chair. I mean, obviously nothing I do is going to work. And then it continues on, and we get an understated, but to me, just a great ending. But obviously not everyone. You feel 180 degrees different.
180. I thought it was such a pisser. I was so mad. I was like, that's the stupidest ending I've ever seen. And I don't mind quick endings, because I mean, look at The Birds. The Birds ends in a very strange way, and I love that. But this, no, I think I even text everybody, what the pisser of an ending. I did not.
I feel like the ending wasn't so much about solving any great mystery or anything like that, but it was sort of a race to see if he could get there before Blaney killed.
No,
but that's what I felt, and it did end abruptly. I will admit. It didn't bother me that much.
I've been watching these, like I said, these Hitchcocks, and that are like back in the day when you only had 5 minutes of commercials in a 30-minute show. So they're 25 minutes long. That includes the intro and the outro. So probably, 20, 22 minutes long. There's a lot of them that end like that you don't even get a resolution. You just kind of go, huh? And then Hitchcock come back and explain it. But some of them have really nice little, I don't want to call it a twist, but a little capper at the end. And when this happened, I cheered, because it was, and I didn't remember exactly how it ended, because I felt like, yes, just like what I've been watching from 20 years prior to that. And I loved I don't know. Bill was talking about how they, or Chad was talking about how he does something and then carries it. Everything is done for a reason. So one of the things that really hit me was when good old Bob Rust, whenever he eats something, he starts going, and then he pulls out his tie pin and does it. So that carried through, and that made that just seem so natural, that was how he discovered that. So stuff like that. And I guess I'm not quite getting, there's a guy makes a real nasty comment in the bar about rape.
No kidding.
And then there's
we haven't had a good sex murderer in a while. It's like, bad times. Haven't had a good sex murderer. And
at least she got some enjoyment out of it or something. Doesn't he say
what the hell?
I'm like,
well, the barmaid was like, I heard he rapes them first.
I know.
And it was like, back up, creepy. I just want to
Yeah, whoa.
You know,
but I guess I didn't get that much
no tip for you
out of it. What were the other spots like that?
Well, no, I guess, it's just that this is one of those films where we're introduced to some fairly likable ladies and they die horribly, which, I mean, that's what horror does. Yeah. I mean, as far, I can see what Doc's saying. There's not a lot of likable characters. Everyone's flawed. The most charismatic guy is the killer. The hero, kind of a, he's a guy who's fallen on hard times, and he's kind of a jerk.
Oh, he's
a lot
a
of the
complete
times.
dick. Come on. They're all dicks. All the guys are dicks except for the police officer. He's, I don't know what he is.
But I mean, which is interesting to have the lead character be someone who's not particularly admirable, likable, and sure makes a lot of dumb decisions.
Well, for the first 30 minutes, you're totally led to believe he's the killer.
It's him. Yeah.
I forget his name. Blaney.
Are you?
Yeah. He's all pissed off, and he's acting like a jackass, and you're reading about the ties, and you open up. It was like MacGuffin galore, because
they brought out that these type of killers are often revert to these childlike tantrums.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he did a lot. He just things not going his way.
The scene.
I never thought he was the killer. Not from
really.
Well,
never.
You've seen Hitchcock in lots of horror movies, but that is definitely what they were pointing at. They're talking about the necktie killer, and when you introduce us to him, he's tying his tie.
Well,
these guys are talking at the bar, like Chad said, about the way they act, and then he walks up and throws a little fit about his brandy doesn't have enough brandy in his large brandy, and then when they would show like him doing something, and there actually was a music crescendo that he's doing something totally innocent, but they're making it sound like this is something really bad's going to happen here. And then
Doc's watched a lot of Scooby-Doo, so he knows not to suspect the first person that they throw at you.
Well,
then we
maybe we'll go with that.
I just find it hilarious. Doc doesn't like this movie.
I don't like this movie.
I think he didn't. He decided ahead of time he wasn't going to like it.
Oh, you think?
Because
why?
Well,
why
you said something when I picked it. And like, that's what people don't talk. It's not very well thought of, Like, it actually has pretty high percentages on Rotten Tomato and Metacritic and stuff like that. Not that
neither is Fury of the Werewolf
Man.
Man.
A good movie, but
Fury of the Wolf Man. Wow, you gotta keep throwing that in our face, Chad.
I do.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. You're completely. It's okay, Doc. You can hate this movie.
It's subjective. You're allowed to be wrong.
I love it.
Well, I didn't say that. Everybody gets their own opinion, but
that's right.
The one parts that bothered me a little bit is there's just little touches in there that are a little bit too obvious, like when he strangles Blaney's ex-wife, and you're supposed to kind of be seeing the life go out of her eyes, but they actually just go to a freeze frame.
And then the tongue's out.
The tongue thing. I will say the tongue thing made me laugh when I saw it in the theater. The audience laughed. I laughed. I mean, I know what they were going for, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
The one with, and I don't know, you don't know what the hell.
I thought it was so bad taste to do that after that scene. I don't know. To me,
I don't.
To try to make it funny. It really.
I don't know when
that whole scene and then. Yeah.
I mean, it was shocking because she's dead, and again, this is 1972. This is 50 years ago. You're not used to being introduced to these nice, likable characters, and then have them die. And if they did die, they usually died off screen. We didn't see their dead body, and there she is. She's dead. She's dead, strangled.
For 10 minutes. Yeah.
Her tongue's hanging out. I mean, it's pretty brutal. I remember this is the guy who.
Lovely.
Oh yeah.
Creepy.
I mean, that was creepy and horrible, but rape is creepy and horrible. And I get it when the filmmaker shows it as something repellent and repulsive and everything, but then it's also something you're sitting through. So yeah.
Well, I thought he was trying to really, in a certain amount or a certain way, that he was trying to depict the way things really could be. You know, like you're not when people die, they're not always in a a death grimace like the old woman on Black Sabbath. So you could have that could be the other one, the end one was like that too. However,
right,
Babs, the look they got when they pulled the thing off of her, that I thought was frightening. That seemed realistic to me. Her tongue wasn't sticking out, but her eyes were bulging.
Right.
And I don't know what you look like if somebody strangles you to death. I suspect your eyes are bulging at some time during that. I don't know if they are afterwards, but I didn't take it as that he was, not so much he was trying to be funny, but showing that in real life there's all facets that go into it. I don't think I'm making myself clear, but that
I don't think it was meant to be funny.
It just after you're killed,
it just the tongue.
Not everyone looks the same. Not everyone is going to look the same when they die,
right?
No matter how they
die.
But
it was out there and glaring, and it was definitely memorable. That's one of the things I remember.
Oh yeah, it's memorable. I'll give you that. It's memorable, but I took offense. I did not like this film, so kind of like. Yeah,
we're not going to talk him into it.
No.
But I don't see how you can. Well, anyway, that's all right.
That sounds like you want to talk me into it. Well, let's talk.
I was just going to say I'm not sure why you took offense, and if it's about the rapes and that kind of stuff, it's just.
I thought it was
a horror
poor
movie.
Taste.
There's offensive stuff.
I thought it was poor taste. I thought I really was put off by this movie.
I mean, I can
Most
totally.
People think horror movies are in poor taste.
Yeah,
it felt like to me that he was trying to incorporate things that he never could really before,
right,
in earlier films with the nudity and the subject matters and stuff.
And
there's
nothing whatsoever sexy about the nudity. Nothing erotic whatsoever about it. That's anyway.
I mean, it's a fine line, and people have their own opinion. It's obviously you look at something like I Spit on Your Grave, which is just an ordeal to sit through that sequence. That's obviously in bad taste. But then, you look at the old-fashioned movies, the kind that Hitchcock used to make, where something a rape would be done in a way that was almost romantic, or so heavily implied that if you didn't know what was going on, you had no idea what was going on. So it didn't seem terribly horrific. And that's a tough one. It's a tough decision for any filmmaker on how much you show and when you cross that line from being, showing horror to being exploitive about it. Hard to say.
So, I mean, you mentioned the scene that actually I thought was more effective, right? Because we knew what was happening and it pulled out, and that was so much more effective than the scene with the ex-wife. I just was.
It is.
I just thought it was a bad decision. I thought it was in poor taste. I think put a funny stinger at the end of it, and
I think though the reason why that subtle scene works so well is because we've been prepped by the previous scene that was really graphic, and now the tension is: are we going to see this happen again to a character I was really quite fond of?
And it's on us as the audience to. As that
hear
that pulling out,
you hear we do the opposite
too. Just to reimagine what's going on.
We imagine the same things happening to her.
Yeah, so we can only imagine he's doing the same thing, and you feel a sense of helplessness that we know what's going on as that camera's pulling back, and you're like, no, and plus up to that point we'd come to really love Babs. I did anyway. So it was just almost to give you a sense of helplessness that. You can't help her. There's nothing you can do as the camera pulls back. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the posters. And there's your frenzy poster that you were talking about.
That top one was the only one I ever remember. Yeah.
The bottom one must be like a DVD or.
It looks like a VHS cover.
It's god awful. That is a god awful cover. Shoot. Yeah, that's some good stuff there. It also reminds me a little bit of like the poster for Vertigo. I mean, that Even if it
Yes.
didn't say Hitchcock, that looks like a Hitchcock poster.
Yeah.
From
You know
the
it
Master
does.
of Shock, a shocking masterpiece. That's a pretty good tagline, actually.
That's right. We didn't do taglines. Oh my.
That's okay.
All right, we got Hitchcock. There's the shot of him in the film again, and then a couple
Yeah.
more of them.
Yeah.
But he definitely had that pouty look. I also thought that this film was a poor reflection of who Hitchcock was. I guess that's what it felt like. Wow, it seemed like, I don't know, that it just felt like, oh, is this what Hitchcock
See, to
likes?
me, this is a return to form, because when you look, I mean, he did a great 1-2 punch: Psycho, The Birds, and then, except for the TV show, which was great, Topaz, Torn Curtain, Marnie did not do well, and I think I've seen them, and they do not linger long in the memory. So this was really a kind of a comeback to where he left off with Psycho.
Well,
I've seen them, and there's a few tension camera tricks, but there's nothing like earlier works. Even
I mean, you could
What, Doc?
go a little bit before Psycho, because Vertigo and North by Northwest were the 2 years prior to that. So it wasn't a 1-2 punch. It was a succession of really great films.
Rear
he was
Window.
one of the
Rear Window's
masters.
a good one too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Rebecca,
that's 10 years
Rope is another interesting, but
Catch a Thief. Yeah.
It just felt like he was one of those filmmakers that in the 60s, as the 60s were changing, his stuff was really looking old fashioned. When you see, I don't know if it was Marnie or Torn Curtain, but any of the process photography, when characters are obviously sitting in front of a blue screen pretending to drive a car, it looks so old fashioned.
But it also became his signature, though, didn't it? And then isn't that like
it kind of
feels
did,
like
but
Hitchcock shot.
But it does feel like a Hitchcock shot. But people were going to see Easy Rider. They wanted to see movies with cameras strapped on the back of a motorcycle. His stuff was just looking really old fashioned, and this seemed to me like an attempt to kind of get around that.
I think maybe he was reined in a lot more than we realized by the censorship board. There was a lot more that he wanted to show. Like, he was always getting pulled back on stuff like that. So, anyway, and then it finally released, and I don't know why at that point he switched to like Torn Curtain and Topaz. That's an interesting change that I should read about.
He was an amazing filmmaker. Now let's get this out of the way. He was a weird guy.
Yeah.
And he was also from the old school of the director was like God, and God did with his little creations anything he wanted. He was a monster on the set, if any of the stories are to be believed, and I have no reason to doubt them, because that's the way directors really were back then. He was kind of a weird guy, and was one of those people who could also get that weirdness, use it to make art. Like he had a fear of policemen, which really comes across in some of the scenes in Psycho.
Right.
He had a love of food, which I think makes the dinner scenes here so funny, and they really were funny. I thought the meals she was cooking were pretty good, actually. I'd love to have quail and grapes.
Oh,
yeah,
it looks like a pig's foot.
Pig's foot.
Well, I love
they react to a margarita like she's giving him kerosene or something.
Tequila and triple sec. What I loved was her comment about something like, "What I know what you'd like for your next meal," or
steak and mashed potatoes.
Goes, well, you'd love a steak and mashed potatoes, but what you're kidding?
Fermented fish eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, talking about him on set, both of the two kind of lead women in this, Barbara Leigh-Hunt and Anna Massey, said he was very nice and very friendly and nothing untoward. And Barbara Leigh-Hunt said she drove him home every day, or he drove her home every day, and that he most of the time talked about his wife and her illness and that kind of stuff. And
well, he was getting on in years too.
Yeah.
Anna Massey said he would, like, right before a scene started, he would tell like a dirty little schoolboy joke just to loosen everybody up, or maybe loosen himself up. Or she she was known for having like stage fright, anxiety attacks, so that she appreciated that.
It's interesting. Someone had said earlier about how he was not actually there for some of the shooting. And that's the thing. One of the things that always impressed me, I just remember reading Hitchcock, he didn't actually love the process of making movies. It's just that he knew he had to eventually make these movies or they would never hire him to plan them. And that's what he loved doing, was planning the film, getting the shot list, making the storyboards, hiring, doing all that stuff. Actually shooting the movie, and if you've ever been on a movie set, you'll get this, it can be a drudge. It can sort of be a lot of stop and wait and wasted time. Now, I love the energy of a film set, but a lot of people, once it's on their bucket list, once they're actually on it, and they're like, well, I'm never doing that again. That was not what I thought. It was, not exciting at all. So it's interesting that, yeah, I could see him totally just, you got the storyboards, you know exactly what I want. I got to go do something, just shoot it. There's even been arguments over the years on who shot the shower sequence for Psycho. Some people credited Saul Bass, who did the credits.
Oh, yeah.
The opening titles, yeah.
Well, I think he was very detailed in all of that stuff, like you said, ahead of time. So that stuff's all mapped out. And if he has people he trusts, then I guess he would trust them to do that. But and Anna Massey, that's another thing she said, was that he was very detailed and very particular about every single aspect at the beginning of the movie. The colors, the sets, the details, the clothes, everything. And as time went on, he got a little less and less focused, or a little less. And, it could have been because of his wife. Could have, we don't know, but it could be what you're saying too. So,
and his health was not spectacular. I remember seeing something where they were giving him an award, and it was awful. At least I thought it was going to be awful, because they have one actor after another getting up there and talking and praising him. And every now and then they would cut back to Hitchcock and his wife, who looked like they were melting. They looked like they were made of wax, and the heat from the lamps was melting them down. His head was drooped. His mouth was open. I'm like, oh God, he's like, they waited too long to give him this award. And then at the very end, he shuffles up on the stage, and they're giving him a standing ovation, but they're all looking at each other like, oh God, cut. And he gets to the microphone. He does the good evening, and boom, he's off and running. And yeah, he's talking slow, but it's hysterical. It's so funny. He's like insulting them to their faces. And, he denied that he ever said that actors were cattle, which was a famous quote of his. He said, what I meant to say was actors should be treated like cattle. Oh, they loved him. They laughed. They applauded. It's another standing ovation. So that was good to see, because I really was afraid. Oh, poor guy. His mind was still quick, even though his body was starting to give out.
Wonder if he still had the penchant for blondes.
I don't know if that ever goes away.
All right, let's talk about the actors and the actresses. Start off with John Finch, who plays our hero, I guess.
Yeah, he's our hero. There he is. And I had to stick in a couple of other things he did there, because he's been in some good stuff. He was in, I think that's from Vampire Lovers. Not a big role.
Yes.
Yeah. And then maybe one day we'll do the final program, aka The Last Days of Man on Earth, because that is one of the weirdest movies ever made. Just a science fiction movie. If you can explain how that movie got made.
That's like the hermaphrodite.
Oh yeah, hermaphrodite caveman
mates with itself or something.
Yeah, wow. Based on just a mess. What a mess.
He was in The Horror of Frankenstein as well.
Yes.
Lieutenant.
Can't win them all.
And he was also in he played the lead in Roman Polanski's Macbeth.
Oh, he was good in that.
Was he?
That's a horror movie right there. Yeah, that actually is a pretty good movie. Doesn't get a lot of attention, but I liked it. I like Macbeth movies. He's good in this. His character is, like we say, not a terribly likable character, but he does what he does with it.
I just don't think he's well, I mean, this may not be unfair, but he's not the leading man kind of guy. He doesn't have what I typically look for in a Hitchcock film. So,
Hmm.
which is technically fine, but
Well, he's not Cary Grant or Robert Taylor or Sean
And I think
Connery. Or,
Yeah.
I think he was meant to look a little unkempt, and because of his loserish
yeah.
personality.
Well, I
he
think
was,
that was part. I'm sorry, Chad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I think that was part of the leading you to think it was him, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
That he was such a loser and was driven, whatever. He did a couple of weird. Have you guys seen, these were in the 90s, The Lurking Fear or The Darklands, or just Darklands?
Lurking Fear.
Lurking Fear, I think I've seen. That's based on Lovecraft.
Yeah. I hadn't seen those, but I just saw those in his list.
It's not good.
I like that.
Good.
You could probably count all the good Lovecraft adaptations on one hand and have some space left over. So that's more disappointing when it's based on something that could have been good. The Lurking Fear, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Especially
trying to remember
the
who did that.
All right, we also have Barry Foster, who ends up playing the antagonist. Spoilers.
That hair, man.
The hair.
It's now, is this the role where they wanted Michael Caine and Michael Caine turned him down? Because it looks like they put out a call.
Yes.
If you look like Michael Caine, apply for this film.
They did want Michael Caine, and I think they had somebody else in mind for Blaney character too, but I can't remember who it was off the top of my head.
It's like they hired his stunt double.
I hope you saw this, but he was in a movie in '74 called A Quiet Day in Belfast, and he played John Slattery.
Nice.
Another villain.
Co-starring
Another
with
villain.
Margot Kidder, yes.
Oh my God.
And he was in Twisted Nerve with Billy Whitelaw from the late '60s.
Yeah. I thought he was good in this. I mean, he plays the role. He's able to make himself likable and ingratiating, but that's all a facade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they sort of made him look like he was going to be the good guy at the very beginning. Nice guy, amiable, and good buddies with the other guy, and so they kind of.
I think even when I first saw this, pretty young, I had him pegged early on because. Right. I don't know. Maybe I'd watched too much Scooby-Doo. But when they introduced the guy who's obviously the bad guy and his best friend who's obviously a good guy, my mind immediately goes to, no. Watch. Of course, now it's become such a cliche. I watch a lot of Netflix movies, and the best friend is almost always the bad guy.
Oh, man.
Almost always.
It's always a pisser. It's usually Samuel Jackson or somebody like that, or Woody Harrelson is always the one that was double crosses him. Oh, it's so stupid.
Yeah. It was me all along. Wow.
I don't know how graphic it would have been because it was a TV movie, but he was in a movie called Succubus in 1987.
Oh, nice.
I remember that.
Do you?
Or is it the Incubus? I remember. Incubus, Succubus. Yeah, they're all.
Boy, you better know the difference. I'm never sending you out to get me a demon. I don't know what you're going to come back with.
We got a deal there, pal.
Abby's somebody, right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Anna Massey.
She's been in some good stuff here. Besides, I like her. I really did like her in this movie. She's sweet. She's likable. She's attractive without being unrealistically drop dead gorgeous. Awesome. I like that in these movies when they have real looking people. These are not glamour pusses. Yeah, look at that Vault of Horror. She was the vampire on tap, and she was in a Peeping Tom. Wasn't it?
She wasn't a glamour puss like Bill said, but there was a quality about her. She's cute. She's sincere.
Yeah,
and she's not dumb by any means. She's a smart woman, and she was willing to stand by, and it was a great character, and I thought she did a marvelous job, and it made you care enough about her that when she was killed, you were you were just taken aback by it. You didn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
I believe their relationship, the two of them. You know, you believe that it was more flirtatious than actual, and but at the same time, you could tell they really cared about each other, and that she would believe him, and she would be the only one. So.
Yeah.
I did buy
she
that.
was Raymond Massey's daughter, or was.
Oh.
And her grandfather was one of the owners of Massey Ferguson.
Wow.
Equipment company.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Your cats are going crazy, Bill.
Yeah, excuse me a minute. This cat is so dumb.
I gotta go take care of the dumb cat.
Yeah.
All right.
Leave. Scram.
Oh, don't kick
Couldn't
the
push
cat.
the door open. Was trying to jump. Oh. So dumb. So dumb.
What happened to your cat? Wow, she's prolific though. She has done 126 things, and she passed away in 2011 at 73.
Oh wow.
But it's just a lot of TV shows, a lot of work. It's quite the body of work. Yeah, I liked her quite a bit. Clive Swift.
So this one I was like, where have I seen this guy before? Where have I seen this? And I was like, oh my God, he's from Keeping Up Appearances. I don't know if you know what this show. The show on the bottom. Okay,
yeah.
If you've never seen this show, find yourself a cable company that has lots of English comedies and watch Keeping Up Appearances. It's just one of the damn funniest shows ever, where he plays Mr. Bucket. That's his last name. He marries this woman who's this terrible social climber and insists that they pronounce it bouquet. And she's always trying to make herself look, more upper class than she is. She is not upper class. It's so funny. And he's the husband. He puts up with her nonsense. Just like, what are you going to do? And it's a funny performance. So I was happy to see him in this movie.
And you recognized him from that, huh? Yeah, all right.
Oh yeah. Oh, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I think it's Richard Bucket. The funniest part of the show is people will come up to him. They're like, because people they dive into hedgerows when they see her coming down the sidewalk because she's so awful. And they're just like, you've been married for like 20 years. How can you tell me? How do you do it? And he's just like, you just got to accept things the way they are. And they'll start crying and they're like, you're the bravest man I know. It's just like, it's so funny. It's a great show. I love British comedies. Sometimes the jokes are totally over my head. It's like, okay, I guess that was about the Queen or something because I just totally didn't get it. But
I mean, he was good in the role. Like I said, even though I didn't appreciate the humor, I liked his character.
His wife was awful.
Oh man,
he turned his back on old Blaney, his old buddy Dicko. Minute
old Dicko
cost him something.
Were they supposed to have been like buddies in the war? I mean, they were obviously in the armed forces, and I'm assuming like they were in the Battle of Britain or something. And,
Suez.
The war's over. It's like, hey man, he saved you from Hitler, and now you're turning your back on Dickie.
Dicko.
Oh, Dicko. Dicko's got to work in a bar.
Well, I don't think they were
that
old, but
nah, they weren't really. But I don't know what other war they would have been in, though.
Something about that bit in Suez. There was,
nasty business. That
nasty. All right, Barbara Leigh-Hunt.
No relation.
As the ex-wife who gets strangled, and there's that shot.
Yeah, she was sweet too, and you could see there was still a lot of affection toward him, and he didn't treat her well.
And of course, she accidentally set him up by putting money in his pocket without him knowing it.
Well, she rubbed the money on her face to get face powder on it.
I know. What was it?
At first, I was mad at her, and I was mad at Babs because it seemed like he was just being such a total dick, and they just kept being nice to him. But then I decided, well, maybe he's not always this big a dick, He was a dicko. But
the The name fits.
And Babs worked with him, so she had to know what he was like, more
Yeah.
than just these interactions.
Mhm.
So
Well, he was 10 times better than the bar owner.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Baron
he's
Kessel.
a jackass. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that does.
But yeah,
look a
except for
little-
that unfortunate
that
bottom
was
shot.
that was another interesting line. I guess we're jumping off of her, but when Babs says, "Oh yeah, well you're always fingering me behind the bar,"
Yeah, I was like,
wait,
what?
that must be something else in England.
I
I'm
sort
hoping.
I sort of stared down at my shoes when she said that.
All right, it's another country. Things have different meanings.
I guess that's why she wears a skirt.
English people always used to laugh at my friend Randy. So, the words don't always mean the same thing.
Randy, because he's Randy.
Yeah.
All right. Billy Whitelaw
There she is.
in this,
Woo.
and in a small role, but very commanding when she's on the screen. Of course, we remember her from The Omen. She quite the presence in that film.
Mhm.
Yes, Jeff.
But she was also in The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Dan Curtis,
The Dan
movie
Curtis
with Jack Palance.
Nice.
She played one of the barmaids, I think, that he went after. And I noticed this at the last second. She was in The Flesh and the Fiends.
Oh, what, from
Way
the
back in-
60s?
Yeah,
Wow.
Mary Patterson. I don't know how big a role it was, but with Peter Cushing, I don't know if they had a scene together or not.
She has a quality to her. She has a presence. You can see really what is she doing? She's just sitting there with her arms stretched out and everything, but she commands the scene that she's in. And you can see why she worked for The Omen too. She's able to project without really doing a whole lot a certain malevolence.
Well, she had, it's a posture, right? She had great posture.
Yeah.
She had a stance. She didn't slouch, and she's very
Yeah.
authoritarian in that manner, and you feel that it comes across, and it's all about body language.
When she was standing up above on the balcony watching them come toward the building, she was like,
Yeah,
Like a gargoyle.
Yeah.
boy, there you
could
guys
tell-
in trouble.
don't let her.
You could tell when
by dogs.
they showed her from the ground that she was not happy with what was going on.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Not a fan of the Dick Man, so
And the Dicko.
That Dicko crap might fly with some, but not me.
Yeah, that's right. Because I mistook this guy. This. I was thinking this was the detective, but this guy is this was his husband, right? Or her husband.
Right.
Her husband.
Her
Yeah,
husband,
so
yeah. His friend who was going to help him out, supposedly.
he plays good henpecked husbands. He's just got
He
that
was
look
he
about
was
him.
so henpecked, wasn't he? Yeah, but if you're going to be henpecked, Billy Whitelaw will do some serious henpecking.
Oh yeah.
She is the henpeckiest of all henpeckers.
She rules the
That
roost.
didn't come out right.
Well, what I was going to say would sound worse, so I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
I don't know.
Wow.
The henniest pecker, the peckiest pecker. I don't know.
Oh, it's just a
Peckiest
henpecker.
hen.
Henpecker is going to be fun.
Henniest
All right, let's talk about the food.
Just keep swimming.
I just laugh looking at those two meals.
It was great.
Oh, I
Tiny little
love when she walked back into the kitchen and he spits that big mouth.
Oh my God.
That was hilarious.
The pig's feet, yeah, the pig's feet.
The
And
grapes.
he dumped that whole plate of fish into
The fish
pot.
head.
Yeah, back into the pot.
Oh my God. That was awful.
And something tells me she knew he was doing it.
Oh yeah, I feel like this is a passive aggressive way of getting back at him, and you can't say.
I'll
anything
have
about
mine
it.
out in the kitchen while I'm making the rest of it. I'm like,
Right.
She's not eating any of that.
Yeah. She probably had a
her name-
cheeseburger and fries in there in the kitchen.
Her name is Vivian Merchant, and she was won an Oscar. Maybe it was nominated for an Oscar for supporting role for Alfie.
Oh,
Huh.
okay.
Just a few years before that. But boy, she had that wound tight. I don't know. I can't even make
that little smile.
Mhm.
And she's obviously very intelligent. Like I said, I thought it was fun the way the two of them. I mean, they could have played this just for laughs, like the guy, oh, my idiot wife cooks horrible food and blah, blah, blah. But he clearly respects her opinion. He talks shop with her, and there's a lot of giving back, and he's not disregarding what she says. He realizes, she's on to some things there. She's good at it.
Yeah.
And she needles him a little bit. But I always felt like there was good affection here.
He
Yeah,
does start. He
so
does
did I.
start off early in the film giving her shit
Yeah.
when he's eating his breakfast, and he's like,
Oh my God, he was shoveling that
because
food.
Yeah.
he said
My
we
real
already
food,
knew,
yeah.
we already knew that he did not like the meal situation at home before we got
Well,
there.
and then he says, I fear we've put the wrong man behind bars. You put the wrong man behind bars.
Oh man! And speaking of that, we have. Oh, that's right. He escaped. We have the ending.
The ending, which again, I like it or you don't. I thought it was just such a brilliant setup and a good, memorable last line. And you know what? Really, where could they go from that? Are we going to like spend another 10 minutes watching them get fingerprinted and everything? The story's over. The protagonist has been exonerated, and the bad guy is going to go to jail, or I guess they didn't have the guillotine back in England at that time, but he's going away, and so our story has ended. It's just an interesting way, because again, if this were an American film, it would have ended in a shootout or something where there's got to be the bad guy's got to die, maybe in a car after a car chase.
Going to jump out the window. They're going to chase after him.
Instead, this poor girl gets 3 whacks across the forehead with a tire iron.
Oh my God!
And for no good reason.
Yeah.
Now,
FYI,
drop the case, and then he just stands.
FYI, if you're going to get revenge on someone and you see them seemingly sleeping in a bed, before you start whacking that tire iron around willy-nilly, make sure it's the right person.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Alec McCown, who plays the inspector, that his face through that whole scene was awesome, because at least this is the way I took it. He walks in, he sees Blaney standing there, and the look on his face is more like, wait a minute, I was right. And then he hears the trunk thumping down the stairs, and then he realizes,
just like,
and
he just slowly steps behind the door,
and
then closes
as
it.
Blaney's trying to say, wait a minute, I can explain for the 100th time. And
And he goes, "Oh, I see you don't have your tie on."
Gotcha.
Like that's the one thing that.
Well,
I
loved it. Well, thinking back a little bit, I was noticing the other thing that went really, really fast is from the time that they arrested Blaney to the time he was convicted was like 2.5 minutes.
Oh, look. England doesn't
like,
mess around like we do, where you can sit in jail for 3 years before they get to you. As soon as you're arrested, they put on those powdered wigs and it's off you go, off with your head. It's a quick system. There's a lot to be said for it. Maybe we need to switch back to that. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up because we got a lot of feedback to get to. So,
very quick comment.
Absolutely.
Michael Bates, the sergeant. I like the sergeant, even though he's more there as a kind of a foil for the.
What have I seen him before?
Well, he was Field Marshal Montgomery in Patton.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
The British lead. He also was in Salt and Pepper, which we've talked about a few times. The Peter Lawford, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, god awful movie.
But I don't know. I looked him up, and you may have seen him in some British TV shows. But most of these people did a lot of stage acting and a lot of British television shows,
which was common in the 70s because they, the actors that wanted to do film couldn't get enough work, so they did a lot of TV, and then they would do film in between. So that was
same with stage, I think, or they wanted to stage,
same with stage.
They couldn't make enough money, so they had to do a movie. John Finch said he valued his privacy, and I saw a quote from him somewhere that was like, "Yeah, I basically just kind of one movie a year was enough for me. I could live comfortably, and
There you go.
Nobody bothered me, and that's the way I liked it."
He downsized. Yeah. He's got his tiny house out in the lake, and he's good to go.
Michael Bates, wasn't he also in Clockwork Orange?
Yes.
Okay, that's where I remembered him from.
Yeah.
There's a film we need to do. All right.
God.
Jeff, you are up first with your final thoughts and all that goodness.
Well, I have to apologize for getting overly excited.
Overly excited. What do you mean?
Is this something we
during
don't
this
need to know
podcast,
about?
Well, no,
Yeah.
I catch myself talking really loud and interrupted people and giving Doc a load of crap. And
None of those things ever bother me.
I just
Is that what that smell is?
really like this movie. And I was really disappointed in Family Plot. You're right. It's more like an hour and a half version of one of the comedic television
Ooh.
series episodes. Love Bruce Dern, love the actors in it, but just wasn't what I was hoping for in his last movie. So this, I've always liked this. I saw it at the theater. The bug out eyes, even though they were sort of shocking and maybe kind of comical, and the tongues, they still are like really memorable to me. And I don't know. I like it. You can check it out on Peacock.
Peacock. Right next to your hen pecker.
Henpeckery.
Bill Mulligan. Sir, you're up next. I might be doing this in order, but I don't care.
I'm with you. I was very disappointed in Family Plot. It's a movie that ends with one of the characters looking at the camera and winking. Unless you're Deadpool, John Belushi, or Superman from a cartoon, never look at the camera and wink. I hate that breaking the fourth wall nonsense.
Ferris
awful.
Bueller. Ferris Bueller can do it.
I hate Ferris Bueller. I root for the principal in Ferris Bueller.
Oh, no, you don't. No.
Oh, yes, I do. I keep hoping they're going to have a director's cut where he dies in the first 20 minutes or something. Anyway, that's just me. Yeah, right. Yeah, he's actually dead in a demon and
I
don't like the Goonies either. So send your cards and letters to me. So I always think of this as, to me, this is Hitchcock's last movie. This really is. That he was just on autopilot for Family Plot. And it's 50 years old. Some of the attitudes and everything haven't aged well. If you're going to watch old movies, you just have to either deal with that or not watch them. And that's the reality of it. 50 years from now, they'll be watching our movies and they'll be shocked and appalled that we're not as, hip and cool as they will think they are 50 years from now. But I think it's a fun movie. Fun. I mean, it is. It's a good suspenseful movie. It's made by a master. It's assured. It's got some just some good bits in it. It's just fun watching a filmmaker tackle a subject. Horror movies back then were not very high up there. I keep calling it a horror movie, and I'm sure it's never in the horror section. But in its attitude, in its kind of meanness, it's really just
serial killer. So
yeah, it's just an odd little movie that there isn't too many other movies that are like Frenzy, that kind of straddle that line between the stuff that was coming and the stuff that had come before. And if anyone was going to be able to make a film that would straddle that line, it would probably be someone like Hitchcock, who had such a presence in classic movies and classic Hollywood movies, but is also someone largely responsible for what came afterwards. Psycho tore up the rules and made new rules. And from Psycho, a lot of other things came. I mean, I don't know if they wouldn't have come without it, but definitely it's the film without, that not too long afterwards led to Night of the Living Dead and everything else that we associate with modern horror. So I think it's a significant movie, and I think it's a fun movie. I enjoy it, but I can easily see where some would not, like Doc.
Like Doc. Tater Dust, sir. Let us have it.
This is, like Bill said, it's a fun movie. It's pure Hitchcock to me. The way things come together in the movie, how the story is laid out. Interesting characters that I come to like a lot in this movie and care about. Even the bad ones, the bad guys, and I'm ashamed that I've never watched it before now, and I've never seen Family Plot, so I can't comment on that one. But I think if you're going to count this as Hitchcock's final movie, he went out on a good one. I think I really enjoyed watching it. I had a good time watching it. So
there you go. I think you all know where I stand. This movie is not my favorite of his by a long shot. I don't, in my opinion, it's not his. Not a good piece of work from him. But I think it, like you said, you guys suggest it might be the aging of the film, and that may play a lot into it. But I was just kind of like really taken out of the film and pushed back by some of the content in this, from the Hitchcock film, and I thought the approach to the content was questionable. But like you said, that's just my opinion. Obviously, he would still get a red tomato here, not the green one. So
yeah,
we'll go with that. I am glad I saw it, and I do. There, at some point in my life, I want to sit down like over a week or a month and just watch like every one of his films that I can watch from way back in the 20s to,
it's going to take you a while.
It is. And, there's obviously there's a stretch in the 50s and the early 60s that I think, are extraordinary films. And that's when he was at the height of his career, right at the end of the 50s and into the 60s with those four films. Not that any of the films before aren't that great, but, quite extraordinary. And I grew up reading. I even read the books. You remember the Alfred Hitchcock books?
Oh yeah, I love those.
Yeah,
that introduced me to some really good writers, actually.
Yeah. So I would read those, and this was when I was like 10 years old. Around the middle 70s. So, and I would catch like the Alfred Hitchcock show. I think it was like 11 o'clock on like Channel 20, which was this, the VHS, UHS. I forget. But anyway, this film. Watch it.
How many other directors could, he had that piece of music. Dun, 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 dun. As soon as you play it,
right.
Hitchcock, how many other directors had a signature tune?
Nobody.
He was really unique.
I loved it when we played that in band too. That was like, that made being in band worthwhile. Very quick comment. This was shot in like Covent Garden in this big produce market. And apparently Hitchcock was raised there, and he knew that it was not long. It was on its way out. And a couple years later, it was gone. It had been taken over by like law offices and businesses and restaurants and stuff. So this was, in a way, was kind of his, love film, or, homage to this area.
Yes.
All righty.
Well, I don't think it was a love film.
Well, yeah, that isn't what I meant. But
all right.
Yeah.
Let's get. You got some feedback for us, don't you, sir?
Oh God, do I have feedback? If it's all right, I'm going to jump down to an older one first. Episode 145, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. Kathy Chapman, a loyal listener, says, "Oh my God, Bill Mulligan's cat food, a tail in every can." I don't have a cat, but I'd buy it just because. I love this podcast. The movie is excellent, but the conversation about the cat food just takes the cake.
Nice. All about cat food.
I love listening to y'all, and it's just like being with family. You are all awesome, and please keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thanks, Kathy.
I'm still looking for investors, so.
Yes, you are.
Albert.
And will always be.
So on episode 150, Dawn of the Dead, Albert Torres says, "Once again, you guys don't disappoint. Keep up the ghoul work."
Nah.
Albert.
Appreciate it, Albert. Albert's a long-time listener. I usually let Chad read Dallas's comments on the classic era.
Well,
you got it up, Chad? You want to read it?
I'm pulling it up now. This is Dallas.
Got it up, Chad?
Yeah, it's clear down at the bottom.
At my age, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Less frequently than the year before.
Okay, Dallas says, "I was really glad you reviewed Dawn. This is one of my all-time favorite horror films. I always thought it'd be great to hold up in a mall during a zombie apocalypse. However, in reality, I would probably spend my time searching the Carolinas for Zombie Chad. Of course you would. I'd be the coolest zombie.
Yeah.
Already there.
Now he usually does his droopy.
Oh.
I think I hurt my cheeks last time I did that. But that is the official. That is the official Dallas Nostromo voice.
Oh my God! Oh, I'm gonna cry.
It is the official Dallas. Love it, Dallas. Keep it.
Thanks, Dallas.
Keep sending them in.
Yeah.
From episode 151, Exorcist 2, The Heretic, Donnie Salvo commented, I saw this when I was probably 10 years old, and I remember two things. One, I didn't like it. And two, there was some scene with Linda Blair standing with a big light behind her and a bunch of locusts flying around her. That's about it.
Yeah, I think you summed it up. Took us an hour to say what you just summed up in 10 seconds.
Like an Outback restaurant commercial.
Now, on the other hand, Don Joe says, I'm one of the rare fans of this one. My first viewing was a VHS rental back when I wasn't aware of film news or buzz and had no idea what to expect. Then I saw this weird, challenging film and just kind of loved it. I recently got the Scream Factory Blu-ray and have yet to dig into it, so I'm one of those people. Ha ha. Yeah, I got a few of those. I completely understand those that can't stand this movie since it's so different from the first film, but for me, I appreciated the boldness and madness of it all.
See, I've always maintained that there is not a film that exists that is not somebody's favorite film.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, you saw it at the right time. It connected with you. So in that,
absolutely,
you know,
Right.
there's that's not wrong.
Yeah, that's the thing, Chad, in the comic books too, right? They didn't Jim Shooter say that every character is somebody's favorite character?
Yeah, every time you pick up a comic, it's always somebody's first time reading a comic. So that's how he operated. Yeah. Served him well.
Then from Evil, who is also a frequent commenter, this was a movie where no one stood up and said, we have a problem here. They just drove full throttle off the cliff. I feel that it's a movie one should see once just for the experience of it. That being said, I don't hate it. It's full of 70s era weird science mysticism. If one wants to continue the possessed child bad movie masochism, The Visitor just dropped on the Shudder. That one is
on the Shudder. I like it.
And here's one from Thunderhead
kids
Jones.
on the Shudder?
Thunderhead Jones?
Yeah. Fun episode to talk about.
That was me.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
You said we never read your comments, so I thought
Thunderhead Jones.
Thanks. That's my
Jerry
Gmail too.
Jerry. Jerry Chandler says the bottom of the barrel picks are getting better, but I still don't think Bill and Chad suffered enough here. You may have to go. You may have to go straight to Anthropophagus
or Loch Ness Horror,
or the Loch Ness Horror.
Yeah. That's his go-to.
No.
As for this film, I actually blame this movie's stench on the franchise as a part of the reason so many people initially stayed away from the third film. The copies of this thing should all be burnt and their ashes dumped into an active volcano.
Tell us what you really think, Jerry.
What did we ever do to Jerry, by the way?
That he keeps trying to foist Loch Ness Horror on us.
It's not going to
A Larry Buchanan movie. There's nothing I've ever done in my life that makes me deserve a Larry Buchanan movie.
He doesn't.
I'm glad you told me that.
Did you notice? He doesn't. He's not. He doesn't think you and I need to see those, Doc.
I know. Just
the two of us pooped in his cornflakes.
Thanks, Jerry.
And our buddy from New Zealand, Alistair Hughes, wrote in about episode 152, Dracula, AD 1972.
Dracula,
which I knew he would. Because
he's a huge
Hammer
time.
Dear Grue Crew, AD 1970s. It's a measure of my deep love and respect for you guys that I'm offering feedback on episode 152. Because if there's anything I love and respect even more, it's the unparalleled masterpiece, which is Dracula, AD 1972.
Nice.
Doc, you are my new best friend, and obviously got it. As you wisely counseled your lesson light crew, for every perceived For every perceived fault which detractors offer up for this film, it only makes us love it more.
Hold on. Al. Less Enlightened Crew. I just bought your book.
Wow. No refunds.
I don't want one. It's a great book.
Yeah, it is a great book.
It is.
Oh, nice. Oh my God,
you can get this. It's awesome. It's awesome.
That's
on Hammer.
Beautiful cover.
Hammer
too. Wow.
Infographics.
So after being educated by this awesome book, he still thinks we're less enlightened.
Well, now
is that a reflection on us or him after reading the book?
Well, just
we're probably really unenlightened before. So,
so here now he's enlightening us. Consider Lee, Cushing, Beecham, Monroe. Yeah, I think we said that. The best opening of a Hammer Dracula film ever. I think Doc said that. Maybe even more than one of us. A police inspector actually willing to believe evidence of the supernatural. That was kind of a new one.
Yeah, that's unusual. But, in fairness, he probably watched a lot of Hammer movies. So.
Cushing bringing it like a boss in his final showdown with the Count. Honestly, my friends, what more could you want? But it was heartening to hear you all give a more fair and even-handed summing up of my favorite Hammer film at the end. I can't disagree with anything you said, nor would I wish to. I'll leave you with an anecdote which you might enjoy about the actor playing your all-time favorite character, Christopher Neame, as Johnny Alucard. Neame has stated in interviews that he got taken off guard in his fight scene with Peter Cushing and ended up with bruises from someone over twice his age. You've been slammed by the man, poser.
That's right.
From Alistair Hughes. Oh, Al, I love it. I love the effort you put into this and the humor you
Thank
put
you
in,
so much, sir.
Thanks, Al.
Boy, if I was that guy, I'd have those bruises tattooed to make them permanent. Yeah,
and I'll watch it again.
Peter Cushing will always be my favorite actor.
All right. Well, it is time for us to wrap this up. Unfortunately, we have another podcast to beating down our door. So we do have some more feedback that it's going to get pushed back to the next episode. Is that right?
Keep them coming.
We have a really long one that I think is probably going to take its own episode. But
its own episode, entire episode.
Wow. And don't miss us next time for Bill's pick.
What's better than a movie about a dinosaur? A movie about a whole planet of the
dinosaurs. In stop motion.
With stop motion and porn stashes and big poofy and terrible filmmaking. Yeah. This is the movie. Okay, I've always said Equinox is the movie that I thought I would make with my friends. But if we actually had made a movie, it would have actually looked a lot more like Planet of the Dinosaurs. But that's okay. I still love it.
Yeah.
You're all gonna hate me for this. Yeah, I'm already getting ready for the hatred.
It's going to be interesting. All right, Jeff, Bill, Chad. Thank you all for joining me. This was a great discussion. Looking forward to the next
welcome.
one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Always fun.
All right. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Anything else you want me to say?
What was that about just your uncle? Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.